Good evening. My name's Deborah. I run the services directory for Pure Portugal, which is a property portal that many of you know about. And I've been running the directory for about 6 years, and the role of the directory is to help people when they're moving into Portugal. And the directory is full of people like architects, builders, engineers, accountants, and one of them being Holborn Assets, who's with us tonight. And they're going to be talking about the Golden Visa. And what's particularly important, because there's been some whisperings of changes from the government over the last few weeks. So Jason and Sean will be able to update you on that. And there'll be an opportunity for questions. We've already had a handful of questions come in from you prior to this webinar. So we're going to leave some time at the end to answer those questions for you all. So that's me, and I'm going to hand you over to Jason and Sean. So I hope you find this next hour informative, and yeah, nice to have you all with us. So over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Jason. Of course, we have Shane joining me here as well. This afternoon, we've got lots of questions coming in. We've had a great registration numbers for this evening's webinar, so we're going to get through as much as we can. There's lots to cover. There's a lot of news, as Deborah mentioned recently, regarding the Golden Visa and the end of the Golden Visa. So this evening, between myself and Shane, we'll be able to hopefully cover all of the questions. There will be a Q&A section at the end. Naturally, we may be able to answer the majority of the questions as we go through. But in addition to the recent news and the current situation with the withdrawal of the Golden Visa, I'll also be covering the basics of what it is as well for those that are joining for the first time or at the very beginning of their Golden Visa journey. We'll of course cover off generally the process and who is the Golden Visa for, to help you work out if it is something that is to be considered. We'll have a look at some of what we feel are Portugal's best investment options that qualify for the visa under the current legislation as well. I'll also cover off how you can get the Golden Visa for less than 280,000 as well, which again, I've seen some good questions coming in on that one, so we'll cover that off shortly also. And again, any questions as we go through, you'll see a little Q&A box just down at the bottom of the screen, so please do post your questions in at any time, and we shall cover those off at the end. We've got until the hour, so yeah, we've got lots to get through. Before we start, if you haven't logged on to any of our previous webinars, my name is Jason Swan. I'm a senior partner for Holborn Assets. Holborn Assets, we're not actually a Golden Visa company. We are a wealth management practice. We're one of the largest wealth management practices in Europe, with just over $3 billion that we manage between our 20 offices globally. I'm based in the south of Portugal, in the Algarve, which at the moment is very cold. Definitely not what we signed up to when I moved over to Portugal. Previous to here, I was in Spain for 5 years in Malaga. But yeah, by day, I'm a regulated and qualified financial planner for clients moving into Europe. So I can help not just around the Golden Visa, but on any general questions about money, finances, and taxes coming in to Portugal. But today, of course, we're going to be focusing on a particular part of the Holborn group, which is Holborn Passport, which is headed up by myself and, of course, my colleague Shane, which is a service designed around achieving residency and citizenship through a number of different countries worldwide. Of course, today's topic will be that of Portugal, and in particular, the Portugal Golden Visa. So yeah, on that note, I'm going to share some slides with you. Shane's going to help me out as we go through, and I'll be bringing him in a moment as well. And again, please do post any questions on anything that we cover down in the Q&A box at the bottom. Okay, so let's start with the basics. So if you're not too familiar with what the Golden Visa is, okay, it is a residency program. It gives you access to live in Portugal, which in my very biased opinion is the best country in the world, or at least the best part of Europe. But it is a 2-year visa, and after 5 years of holding that visa, you can apply for a Portuguese passport. So you can renew the visa every 2 years. After 5 years, you can apply for your citizenship, and that effectively gives you 27 passports all at the same time to live anywhere in Europe. Portugal is very much seen as the kind of gateway into Europe. It does have the lowest entry requirements. It has a very low minimum stay requirement with the Golden Visa as well, of just 2 weeks every 2 years. And yeah, it is a tried and tested route to citizenship. There are different ways to an EU passport, some of which have not quite been tried and tested just yet. However, the Golden Visa has been around now since 2012. There's been over 11,000 successful citizenship applications. Holborn have done over 10% of all the world's Golden Visa applications since the scheme was launched. So we're very experienced in what we do. We also have a 100% success rate of our applications as well. So yeah, you can buy in confidence, but that's what it does. As far as why do people do the Golden Visa, one of the key, there's a few reasons really. Of course, it's very nice, generally very nice weather in Portugal, but on top of 300 days of sunshine, there are a number of other benefits for your family as well. Of course, being a resident of Portugal gives you access to European healthcare and European education as well. There's also very favorable tax treatment that you can apply for when you move to Portugal, which can allow you to have a very low rate of tax on your overseas income. And again, after 5 years, you can live in any of the EU states as well. There's 3 kind of main cities to Portugal. I'm down in the Algarve, where typically it is, should we say, a little bit more relaxed. It's technically slightly warmer. The main city centre is Lisbon, which is many different to the Algarve. And then up north, the other main city is Porto. So you're not going to go far wrong, I don't think, in any of those, but yeah, myself you'll find down in the south. But yeah, brief overview there on Portugal. I'll briefly touch on tax. It's not the most exciting topic, but it is one of the main reasons people choose Portugal over other EU countries. And just to clarify, firstly, the Golden Visa does not change your tax status. Okay, the Golden Visa is only your permission to live in Portugal, but it does not change your tax status. Your tax status will only change when you physically move to Portugal, or when you spend over 6 months of the year in Portugal. At that time, okay, you can apply for a tax regime called NHR, which is as a non-habitual resident, which is a scheme designed to give you a very low rate of tax for the first 10 years that you live in Portugal on things like rental income, dividends, and pensions. Both rental income and dividends can be drawn tax-free in Portugal on the basis that that income comes from a country that has a tax treaty with Portugal, which accounts for most of the first world, and also a low rate of just 10% on pension income. And there are certain jobs employed and self-employed professions where you can have a flat rate of just 20% tax as well. On top of that, for those that are going to be in Portugal long term and are drawing their income from savings and investments, there are certain investment vehicles that can be used to get up to a 60% discount on the tax on the profits from those investments as well. So yeah, loads of exciting things to look forward to. This again will be more relevant as you physically move to Portugal, but not too relevant just yet. But any questions on the tax front, please do ask. By all means. Okay, so now we'll pass the fun stuff. For this part, I'll give you my brief update before I bring Shane in. I think what a lot of you are looking to find out at the moment is what's going on with the visa. There is a lot of very scary headlines as of Thursday last week. You'll see a lot of Portugal has ended the Golden Visa. The Golden Visa is no more. And it is not quite the case. Okay, just to be crystal clear, the Golden Visa has not ended. There has been no changes in law, nor has there been any dates proposed as to when the law may change. All we know at this stage is that it is going to end, but it hasn't ended just yet. So there is going to be a process now where basically the Prime Minister would like to get rid of the Golden Visa as soon as possible, as he feels that it has kind of served its purpose at this point, and may be a way to solve the housing crisis in Portugal. But it is one of many potential solutions to solve that problem. But like I say, it's got a bit of time before it can happen. But I'm going to bring Shane in on that point to pass his views as to when that may be and what we can do to prepare against it.
Thanks, Jess. So if we're looking at the Golden Visa, so what we've seen over the last, well, since 2012, is we've actually seen two already changes within the Golden Visa. So we've had experience, we've seen how they've approached it in the past. So the last process of change actually happened at the end of 2021. That process was announced in February of 2021, and they gave a deadline date of the 31st of December. So a lot of expectation and a lot of assumption is going on that basis. And the expectation is that we are looking at round about 31st of December. But again, that's using logic. And sometimes governments don't always follow that route. What we do know, however, is on Thursday was announced that they are wanting to close the Golden Visa. The process following that is that they have to have 30 days worth of public discussion. So that's all your role players, your investors, your lawyers, your developers, all that is now having interaction with the roundtable to get their input going forward. From there, on the 16th of March, they will be sitting down to put together a plan. That plan is how are we going to achieve this? Are we still going to cancel the Portuguese Golden Visa? Probably yes. But how are we going to do that? And that process is going into the pot with a number of other different changes that they are looking at bringing to the table. So it's not necessarily just the Golden Visa. There's a number of different changes that they also want to implement. That generally then takes 20 days to, well, it will take a minimum of 20 days to draft the new legislation to make sure that from a legal standpoint, it's still in play. And from there, they will then be able to submit to Parliament. Now, the current party, the ruling party, they've got majority vote. So in essence, they could pass that vote straight away. But as I said, there's a number of different aspects along with that vote, and not just the Golden Visa. So what will happen then is it will be passed generally in Parliament, but then it has to go higher up to the president. Now, the president, in all honesty, will probably send it for verification to make sure, again, that constitutionally they haven't stepped on anyone's toes, and constitutionally it still falls within what they're supposed to be doing. All of that will take at least a month or two. So we've already got that timeline. Now, there has to be a transitional period, right? Logically speaking, the amount of investment, the amount of parties participating in the Golden Visa, if they had to stop it tomorrow, the implications, I think, will be a lot greater than stopping the actual Golden Visa. The reason why I say that is because you've got multiple investors that are at different stages throughout the process. You also have developers who have invested large sums of money into the different properties. And obviously those now properties need to be converted, achieve what they set out to be, and assist with helping Golden Visas. So worst case scenario, yes, we're probably looking at about 2 to 3 months, but generally speaking, we're probably looking at about the 31st of December. Now, unfortunately, no one knows. There is a lot of uncertainty. All of this is going on what logic and what our experiences have been before. We do have time, as we speak right now, to get clients through. And as you can imagine, the last couple of days have been very, very busy for us. So if this is something you are looking at doing, my advice to you is rather take step on, get in contact with Jason, set up the meetings, look at how we can help you move forward. Now, obviously, we've taken this into account that there are changes. There's a lot of uncertainty. So as a business, we've put a lot of safety nets in place. So from a refund point of view, from a stability point of view, we have put in the backing purely on the basis that our company is quite a large company. So we have the opportunities to be able to support our clients. And again, Jason will be able to discuss that one-on-one with you and alleviate any potential risks. If there are any questions in regards to this, please drop us a note in the Q&A and we'll be happy to address them. Jason, anything from your side?
No, that's a good summary, Shane. Thank you. Yes, I think that the common message is, yeah, like I said, we can't kind of guarantee meeting the deadline really at this stage, can we? Because it could be as early as the end of March in a worst case scenario. If the vote is to withdraw and it is to withdraw immediately, you know, we might be looking at a matter of 6 weeks before that date.
Correct.
So I'm sure you'll agree with me, Shane, that the best thing that can be done with certainty at the moment is to put yourself in a strong position to complete as quickly as possible, to submit your application.
The other thing to take into account that we're already seeing right now with the volume of clients now looking at moving forward is it's a case that we wouldn't have thought about before. But if they were, and as we say, we assume they are going to the 31st, it's all very well that we'll have that amount of time. But the main issue that may arise is the supply. At the rate that people are now entering into the Golden Visa, the supply may run out because obviously there's no developer that's going to be putting new investments in the market. So it'll be a situation of the current market is there and would the supply might run out. So again, if it is something, rather not wait too long, take the opportunity now.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Shane. We'll have a look at the process in a moment as well to show exactly what steps are needed to get to that safe point of submitting an application, because there is quite a lot of work to do before we can submit to beat that deadline. But yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. So come back to the kind of who qualifies. Let's get to the basics of the Golden Visa first of all. So as far as who can apply, okay, there is, as long as you don't have an EU passport already, you can apply for the Golden Visa. Also, you can include your dependents as part of that visa as well, including your spouse, should you wish, whether unmarried or married, any children, and of course parents as well, if dependents are over the age of 65. It is designed to bring 3 generations of family across with you, should you wish. Yeah, as long no brothers or sisters, unfortunately, they would have to do a separate application, or work colleagues or friends, but spouse, children, parents, all can be included on the visa. Okay, as far as what currently qualifies for the visa, as far as the investment, at the moment, I would say 90% of applications are being submitted with real estate investments. It is by far the most popular route. However, it is not the only route to the visa. If you could go down the real estate option, okay, as of January last year, in fact, just coming back a while back, the first time Portugal told us that they were going to withdraw the Golden Visa was actually, if I'm not mistaken, shown back in 2020. And the ultimate result from that was not a withdrawal. It was, well, a change in the rules, which didn't actually kick in until January 2022. Hence why we're quietly confident we'll get a little bit of a grace period this time round as well. However, as of the beginning of 2022, the government announced that you can no longer purchase residential property in any of the main cities such as Lisbon, Porto, and the coast, basically anywhere with any tourism or rental demand. Instead, you now must buy a commercial property, or in other words, a completely hands-off investment. And instead of buying for somewhere for you to live, it is actually for somewhere else to enjoy. But you can still buy residential property, but it must be inland. Okay, it cannot be in any of the main cities, but you can still buy a property to live in yourself if outside of those main areas. The price point for the Golden Visa is €500,000. That can be reduced if you buy in a low density area. That comes down by 20% to 400,000. The only way in which to achieve the visa with less than 400,000 is to invest in a renovation project where the building is over 30 years old, for which you can invest from 350. And if you can do that in a low density area, the minimum comes right down to 280 to qualify for the visa. As far as other routes, if you wanted to go down the investment fund option, okay, you can invest in a Portuguese approved investment fund or venture capital fund, which by law must have over a 60% allocation into Portuguese assets. Okay, but that's one route that we can go down. You can invest into Portugal's scientific research, which I've not seen any applications for, strangely, just yet. Don't know about you, Shane.
Just one.
Just one. Okay.
One in the history, yeah.
Okay, maybe a scientist that wanted to do that. But the other option is you can invest into a Portugal registered business. You can set up a new business or purchase an existing business and employ a number of staff for a period of time. Or you can simply transfer €1.5 million into a Portuguese bank for 5 years, which again, not found anyone that wants to hold €1.5 million in a no interest bearing bank account just yet, but it is still a qualifying option. But those are the routes. So real estate, investment funds, scientific research, Portuguese business, or a capital transfer. More on that shortly. What we have done is Holborn have built a portfolio of recommended developments in each of those price points. The general rule is that you'll find that the closer you invest to 500,000, the more profitable the investment is as a standalone investment, and the closer you invest to 280, you'll find that it's maybe not profitable. However, the big benefit is that you require much less capital to achieve the passports. Naturally, you'll have a lot more cash held back, potentially to invest elsewhere, should you wish. But there's an advantage to each price point, and we'll take a look at that portfolio shortly. Hopefully that's nice and clear. But again, any questions, please do post in the Q&A, and we'll come back to those shortly. Okay, the process. This is a bit of a busy slide, but I suppose it's quite a busy process as well. But this is kind of A to Z from where you are now to getting the Golden Visa in your hand. So the first step is to find an investment that qualifies under the criteria, and of course an investment that ticks the boxes and your personal requirements as well. Once we've found that, the first thing that must be done, which is part of our team, of course we will do on your behalf, is to set up a Portuguese bank account and also to apply for your Portuguese tax numbers, which are referred to as your NIF numbers. You can't really do much in Portugal without a bank account and your NIF. So that are the first two parts of the process. Once we've got those in place, you'll meet with the lawyer that is acting for you, who will then run through the legal documentation, which will include the purchase agreement for the property or the investment fund, as well as any incentive documents as well offered by the developer. When the legal work is complete, you will then need to transfer the capital for the property into your Portuguese bank account, your nice new and shiny Portuguese bank account. And from there, you will complete the purchase of the property. The day you receive the deed, you complete the deed, should I say, we will submit the application to CEF for your Golden Visa. That's kind of the ledge that we're kind of racing to get to, because once you kind of get to that point, any kind of changes in law or withdrawals thereafter, and it won't have any impact on your application. So, it's kind of the kind of goal of ours at the moment is to get everybody at least submitted for the Golden Visa before any potential withdrawal dates. You've got as much time as you need thereafter to actually get the visa, but we just need to get you in the system, and we need to get that processing number to be honoured under the current legislation. Our team size has literally doubled in the past week to help get through both the existing applications that are currently in the process, but also to maximise the window that we have between now and, in a worst case scenario, the end of March, to get everyone into the system. Okay, from that point, okay, within our team, we will then take it from there. We will be processing, of course, the application. We'll be waiting for your appointment with CEF. The next thing that you need to do is to accompany the lawyer to the CEF office over in Portugal for your biometrics, which will be for your fingerprints and your photo for both the main applicant and everybody that is included on the visa. And at that point, shortly thereafter, we'll aim to have the visa in hand, which will look a little bit like that one there down at the bottom. From start to finish at the moment, from when we submit the application to actually getting the visa in hand, it's taken around about 12 months. If, again, history is anything to go by, that time will probably be a little bit longer. Last time the rules changed, back in January last year, there was a real big backlog at CEF. Obviously, there was a real rush to get applications through. That is likely to be the case. So I would say realistically could be 12 to 18 months potentially, but at the moment averaging about 12 months as it stands. So yeah, for that point you have the visa in hand. I'm going to hand back over to you, Shane, on that one to talk us through what happens after the visa is in hand.
So once you have that visa in your hand, obviously most of our clients, if not all, are looking at the next step, which is to take citizenship. Now, citizenship is slightly different to residency. Residency gives you the same rights as any other citizen within Portugal. You just cannot vote, run for office, or utilize their passport yet. So to be able to get to that point, we would need to take a couple of steps. First step would be to renew your golden visa every 2 years. Now, that process has slightly changed over the past couple of months in the fact that prior to last year, you would have had to physically be within Portugal for your biometric appointment as well as your renewal. So the biometric appointment was actually done 3 times. What the argument was there is basically you are remaining who you are, your fingerprints don't change, retinals don't change, and things like that. So now they've changed the process. It is now an online process and a lot smoother. So renewals that way in year 2 and year 4, to be able to make sure that you pass that renewal, you have to prove that you have been within the country for 14 days. 14 days over a 2-year period. So whether you break that up into 7 days each year or one continuous 14-day period, that would be up to you, as long as we can prove that you've physically been within the country for those 14 days. The next step would be to apply. So you would need to apply, but before you can apply, you need to pass a basic language test. So that basic language test involves a written and a spoken test. And that generally our clients are taking about 6 to 7 months to be able to reach the right level. You have 5 years to be able to do it. So you can write it multiple times throughout that 5 years. Each testing station does 2 tests per year. And because of that, you can pass it earlier. If it is a little bit of a struggle, you can have time to be able to pass it later. But once you now have that permanent residency or citizenship, just to touch on why there's a differentiating factor there, permanent residence are for a lot of our clients that can't hold dual citizenship. So for instance, a country like India does not allow passport holders to hold an Indian passport as well as an alternative passport. And due to that, we have a permanent residency for that selection. Citizenship, however, is what majority of people are looking for. And once you have that physical passport, you now have the 5th best passport in the world. They compare it the same as the UK, but for us holding UK passports, it's unfortunately better because they're still part of Europe. They didn't have that word Brexit happen. So therefore, they can still live, work, retire, and study in any of the 27 member states. While you have that passport, you can also travel visa-free to majority of the countries out there. 187, as you can see from the map, all the ones in green, visa-free travel. The ones in blue is the EU. That's the 27 member states that you can stay in. Okay. To recap what Jason and I have just gone through now, generally you're looking at about 10 to 12 months. That's the time period that we're looking at. Although the changes are happening, there's a split. Some people are thinking it may take a little bit longer as they did before, but with the changes to the biometrics, it's now freed up a lot of the SEF staff, which now can be redistributed into this. So generally 10 to 12 months for your initial process of the Golden Visa. The next time that you'll need to be in Portugal for visitation is at 14 days. Then in year 2, year 4, you have to renew. And in year 5, so basically 4 years, 6 months, you can now apply for the citizenship. Generally, it's taking about 6 to 12 months. At the moment, it is getting quicker. The reason why it's taking a little bit longer is because of COVID, we've got about 12,000 people that need to move through the system to be able to get their citizenship. Not just Golden Visa holders, but all the other processes as well. So in year 6, you should be getting your citizenship.
Piece of cake.
Easiest. And the other reason why it's easy is because myself, my team, Jason, we work alongside you the entire time. At no point in time do we ever leave you alone.
Yeah, it's not always a good thing, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, we are there right throughout the process. So, you'll have somebody leading you the way up until when you get the passports in 5 to 6 years' time. So, yeah, thanks for that, Shane. So that's a summary of the process and what's involved to get you from point A to point B. So, yeah, any questions on that, please post in the Q&A. So, other than that, the first step then is finding a property. What I'm going to run through with you now is what we feel are the strongest developments that qualify for the Golden Visa at each of the different price points at the moment, based on some very key criteria. But again, these are developments which we feel have a strong developer. They have some great incentives, and overall, we're happy to put our name to as far as good quality investments, and as an additional benefit, of course, qualifying for the visa. So starting at 280. Again, as I mentioned before, you don't find a lot of incentives at 280 compared to 500, but the big plus is that you don't need as much cash to get the passports. This is a classic example of a development currently available inland, in Beja, kind of halfway between Lisbon and the Algarve. It is, once finished, will be a Holiday Inn. I'm sure everyone's heard of the Holiday Inn. And when it's all finished, it should look as you see there in the photos. And the developer offers to sell you a share. Basically, you can buy a share in the Holiday Inn for 280,000 euros, and you will be a co-owner of the entire development along with 59 other investors. You'll be on the deeds to the property. It's a very established developer. They've been around now for over 30 years. They have a very handsome portfolio of 4- and 5-star hotels in Portugal, a mixture of Hilton, Sheraton, and Marriott hotels. And the incentives that is on offer. First of all, for those that are familiar with buying property in Portugal, the real downside is quite a lot of tax to pay up front. For a property of this price, you would expect taxes in the region of about 20 to 25,000 euros. However, the developer actually pays those property taxes as an incentive to buy a share with them. They also offer a guaranteed buyback, which means that after you have received your passport, so your permanent residency, you will sell the share back to them at 280,000. Okay, there's no interest. There's money in and money back out. You don't have to sell it. You don't need an estate agent or a lawyer. It's a very straightforward transfer of ownership and receipt of the original capital. During the 5 years, they will allow you to stay for 7 days in any of their hotels. So not just Holiday Inns, but any of the developers' hotels, which, as I mentioned before, there is a good portfolio to choose from. But this is very, very classic example of a hotel share. Okay, it ticks all the boxes as far as a low density area. It's a building that's over 30 years old, and it's being fully renovated. So good, solid option with a big hotel chain and a well-established developer at 280. Next up, okay, challenging the Holiday Inn is the Wyndham. This hotel at the moment requires less capital than any other route in Portugal to the Golden Visa. and I'll explain why. It is a 4-star hotel when it's all finished. At the moment, it's very kind of rundown building, but when it's all done, it will be a very nice 4-star Wyndham hotel, and it should look exactly as you see in the photos. The offer from the developer, similar to the first, however, again, buying a share at 280. The developer still offers to pay the property taxes up front. There is still a buyback after the passport has been granted. The big incentive with this one, which is very rare actually, is that they actually pay a €30,000 upfront rental payment as well. And that 30,000 can be paid to cover all the other costs involved in the visa process, such as legal fees and the government fees, and leaves you with a nice profit as well. During the 5 years, again, you can stay for 7 days in any of the developers' hotels, which will help you to maintain the minimum stay requirement. So yeah, right now, because of that 30,000 bonus, you're effectively buying it at 250. So when we're looking at the question of how to get a golden visa for less than 280, here it is. It is buy one at 280 with €30,000 as an incentive. And as I say, it covers comfortably the costs for the golden visa application. So great option at a low budget. The third option at this price point, my personal favorite, although I'm a little bit biased because it's kind of 20 minutes from where I live down in the Algarve, in a town called Alvor. And Alvor, as you can see how close it is to the seafront there just behind. The hotel is already built with this one. It is already on booking.com. It's a fully functional 4-star hotel. However, it is it's quite run down. It's very dated, very kind of year 2000, as you see when you go inside, but it has just closed for the renovation to begin in January. And when it's finished, it will be an all improved as new 4-star all-inclusive hotel, which will have brand new swimming pools that are being rebuilt. The restaurants are being redone, the common areas, the furniture, the rooms, everything from top to bottom. Okay, the proposition with this one, slightly different. Please excuse the slight typo there at the top. But the difference with this is that instead of buying a share in the hotel, you're actually going to be buying an individual apartment. In some cases, actually 2 studio apartments, which are sold as 1 unit. And you become the full title deed owner of that individual apartment, which gives you some advantages over the control of what happens when it comes to selling. But the developer still pays the property taxes up front. It's a big saving. The reason why I kind of lean towards this one is that it still has a guaranteed buyback. However, it is an optional buyback, which means basically that if property prices were to go up in the next 5 years, as they have done in the last 5 years, you don't have to sell the property back for what you paid for it. You can sell it on the open market, or you can keep it and you can actually have a rental income. And the rental income will kick in from year 6. Okay, and due to the timing of the application and the time to keep the property, you will receive at least 1 year's rental income, even if you sell it back as soon as you have the passports. And the hotel will be generating anywhere between 10 to 14% per year, of which the owners receive a 50% share. And you literally leave the keys with the hotel. The hotel does all the management, they do all the cleaning and the maintenance, all the check-ins and so on, and simply transfer you 50% of the rental, which should be around between 4 to 6% as a rental. On top of that, you can stay there for 2 weeks every year instead of 1 week as well. So twice as many holidays for the same price. So all in all, this one requires more capital than the Wyndham. I think this one at the moment is the best overall value for money. The Wyndham is currently the option that requires the minimum capital to get the visa and the passport. Both solid options. Of course, the first option, the Holiday Inn. I don't think there's a huge argument for the Holiday Inn at the moment, whilst these two are still available. But again, it's still a strong option with a good developer and a good hotel chain. So those are the entry level properties. Okay, not lots of incentives, but the minimum capital you need to get the passports. So as we go further up the ladder, okay, if we go at the 350 category, there's a brand new development at Lisbon Airport. Again, you can buy a share in the development, this time though at 350 rather than 280. It's the same developer as the first one with the Holiday Inn. You still get all the same incentives, plus a return of 3% per year from when the hotel is built. So realistically, you would have a return of around 10,000 euros for the additional investment of 70,000. So it's personal preference as to whether or not you feel that is worth investing the extra 70,000. But again, it's a good option at 350. Okay, but if you said Porto, there's a development we'd like in Porto where, well, it will look exactly as you see here. At the moment, I think it's all office blocks. Once finished, it will be a very nice self-contained, self-catering apartments in a very nice part of Porto. When it's all done, it will look just as you see here. And the proposal with this one, again, qualifying at 350. The rental income is offered at 3.5% per year for 5 years. However, there's no buyback with this one. So I think the buyback's a good thing to have personally. It kind of gives you a worst case scenario. I mean, with this one, you would just sell it on the open market. Property prices in Portugal are rapidly increasing at the moment, hence the government's decision around taking the Golden Visa away. But 2021 prices increased by 14%. 2022 prices increased by 20%. It isn't sustainable at that pace. Property prices may be higher in 5 years from now. They may be lower in 5 years from now. There's other contributing factors why I think there's long-term growth in property prices, but you know, in the short term, it's always difficult to say what the property market's going to look like. So in my humble opinion, I think it's good to have a buyback option, which gives you the worst case scenario if prices go down. But with this one, again, it's a very nice development, very nice part of Porto. But as an investment, yeah, I don't think there's a huge argument for this one at the moment compared to the others that are available. Also be mindful that having to sell the property on the open market, you would have to pay an estate agent and you would need a lawyer to do that. So although the rental income is slightly higher, there's also costs to sell as well. So, but don't want to kind of deter you from Porto, but a solid option should you have a preference in that direction. Other than that, as we go to the Pelican unfortunately has sold out now. I think there is maybe 1 2-bedroom apartment left. I'll quickly glance upon this one. This one is already built, it's already refurbished. It's actually the development that was done before the Yellow Tulip. And it qualifies at 400,000. The 1-beds were available at 400,000, or you could buy a 2-bedroom for 450. Again, it's full title deed ownership. The reason why this sold, I think, particularly well is that the developer was paying a rental income of 5.2% per year and offering to pay 6 years rental income up front as well, which actually allows you to buy a 1-bed of 400 at 306 with a buyback at 400, or a 2-bed at 450, actually getting it for 369, again with a buyback at 450. So you've got a real clear profit margin there, even with the buyback, even if you just sold at the predetermined price. Also, there is an optional buyback, and you get to stay here for 4 weeks every year as well. So again, there's more capital required. However, there is more incentives and it's more profitable. So it's just getting a balance between the two. So yeah, if you would like to consider it is the last 2-bedroom apartment available. It's 250,000, I think, on the top floor. It won't be there for very long, but if you'd like to see the details, please drop a message in the Q&A or send me an email once we finish, and I shall send you the brochures. Okay, moving on up. Very nice development in the heart of Lisbon, 10 minutes from the airport. Okay, this is not quite finished just yet, but well underway. It's a mixture of 3- and 4-bedroomed villas for sale, qualifying from 500,000. This one, again, full title deed ownership. You have a choice of rental income. You can have a fixed 3 to 6% rental income, depending on which villa that you buy. You can have a profit share of 7 to 10%, should you wish, or you can sacrifice the rental for the option to live there if you wish. It's one of the very few developments that has a commercial license that allows the owners to actually live in the premises full time. Again, the chances of you wanting to live in this particular property more than any other property for sale in Portugal, you could say is statistically quite unlikely, but nonetheless, you have the option to move into your investment should you wish at any time. So other than that, there's no buyback, unfortunately, and there's no rental income paid up front, so it does require a significantly higher amount of capital than, for example, the Pelican and the others at 280. But right in the heart of Lisbon, and again, a good developer. It's pretty much built and a very nice place to be. Okay, the last, I'll try to save the best to last, and the most profitable investment in the whole of Portugal right now is this one. It is a 5-star golf and spa resort on the Silver Coast, about 40 minutes north of Lisbon. And it is a purpose-built resort for a PGA golf course. I believe the European Open was played there not too long back. Yeah, it is a very luxurious purpose-built golf and spa resort. This is exactly as it is now. It's fully complete. It was finished last year. The grass has fully grown now, so it's all nice and green, rather than as you see in the photo. The hotel is not for sale at the back. However, the apartments they're in front of are a mixture of studio and 1-bedroom apartments, which are for sale. The view is pretty spectacular. It is a sea view from all of the apartments that are for sale. Leading out onto the golf course, you can see there in the middle. The first floor apartments, unfortunately, have all been sold out. There are still some ground floor apartments available, which personally I would go for anyway, because you have effectively your own private garden at the front. Nobody can walk across the gardens at the back. So the ground floor apartments have a balcony on top of what feels like your own private garden as well. So not a bad thing, but there's still some ground floor apartments. The offer, okay, the way this works is it qualifies at 500,000. It is not a low density area or a renovation. It's quite simply a new build development. So to qualify at 500, you can either buy 2 studio apartments for 350,000 each, or you can buy a 1-bedroom apartment for 500. If you are a keen golfer, you'll probably know some of these names better than me, as far as who was the architect, as far as the golf course and the hotel itself. But as an investor, the important part is the rental income that is paid. Okay, before tax, the developer pays a fixed guaranteed return of 7% per year. After tax, it comes out at 5.25% per year. And similar to the Pelican hotel we looked at a moment ago, the developer is offering to pay 5 years rental income up front. So for a 1-bed at 500,000, the capital required comes right down to 368,000, with a buyback, an optional buyback at 500. So again, in a worst case scenario, you sell with a comfortable profit margin, which pays for all of the costs, of course, involved with the passports and the visa, and leaves you with a very comfortable profit thereafter as well. So yeah, and on top of that, you can stay there for 6 weeks per year. I think unless you are a keen golfer, I think probably 6 weeks is probably more than you'd need to stay. But for a client a week or so back, we arranged for 2 accommodations for 3 weeks instead, so they could go out and play some golf with family. But either is fine. But other than that, that is like I said, that is the most profitable qualifying investment in the market right now. And other than that, that is everything. That is the process to the visa and the passport. We've had a look at the properties out there, the recommended properties that are out there at the moment. So yeah, I've been talking a little bit there. Hopefully that was helpful. And yeah, of course, would welcome some questions at this stage. And you've got contact details, of course, there on the screen if you would like to book a one-to-one meeting and go through any private questions. Of course, available is personal illustrations for the costings of each development based on the number of family members that you'd like to include. Please do ask. You've got my email address there. You can also message on WhatsApp should you wish as well. Okay, so some questions. I'll start with the questions in the group. Shan, I'm going to fire these questions at you. Let's see if you've got all the answers. If that's all right, and so we can listen to you instead of me. Okay, hi there, Matt. My son has been in Portugal for nearly 5 years and will be applying for residency soon. As his father, can I go there as family? And is my partner of 20 years allowed to join me, or do we have to marry? You get all that?
So I see there's a few parts to that question, but basically the only way you'd be able to join your son would be through what they call family reunification. Now, family reunification is a way to reunite families that live in different area codes. The requirement, though, is that you will need to be dependent on your son. So the fact that you are below 65, they would then need to prove that you are dependent. So we'll need to say that you're retired, that your son is paying for you, and you would need to live with them. So there is a dependency that we'd need to prove. As far as your partner goes, again, we would need to prove that they are dependent. So it's a process that we'd need to follow, but family reunification would be the way that would join you all back together.
Thank you, Shane. Hi there, Herbert. Can a property you already own qualify?
So it depends. It depends on where that property is based and what kind of registration that property is under. So certain areas within Portugal now only qualify under commercial property. So we would need to sit down after this or make an appointment, but we would need to find out where the specific property is and under what regulations that property will fall. If it is a commercial property, then obviously we need to, well, I mean, if it falls under a commercial area, then obviously we would need to take care of it through a commercial purchase. But again, we can look at it on an individual basis.
Super. Okay, so hi there, Pierre. What is the cost and length of the process? So I think we covered that earlier there, Pierre, but just as a recap, the costs generally break them down into 3 sections. You have the cost for the property, which is the property price and any potential taxes payable for the purchase of the property. You have your government fees, the Golden Visa costs to CEF, and you have your legal fees as well. All of those will vary depending on which property or investment that you choose and how many family members are to be included. But please do send me an email with those details as to which property you like and how many family members you would like to include, and I can provide you with the brochures and a personalized cost breakdown. Okay, question from Jack. Hi there, Jack. If investing in real estate, that qualifies as a passport investment type, can we get okay, so the question is, Shane, can we get financing or a mortgage?
So unfortunately, the answer is both. So there's no definitive answer, except for the fact that if you're buying a property that qualifies for the Golden Visa, that qualifying criteria, so if it falls under the 280, 350, 400 or 500 option, has to be a cash purchase. However, if you are buying a 350,000 cash option and your property is now 500, the difference can be mortgaged. But your qualifying criteria has to unfortunately be cash.
Super. And also to add to that as well, Jack, you can raise finance on other property if you wish. So if you did have a property back home or another property in Portugal, you could remortgage, but you cannot secure the mortgage on the property for the visa. Okay, question from Sean. Hi there, Sean. On the last call, the focus was on new builds. I would like to understand more about low density locations on older properties. Thoughts on that one, Shane?
So your older property is always going to be 30 years older, but you've got 2 distinguished differences there. You have what they call a rejuvenation area, which is generally they will be building from new. So they'll take an existing building, For example, the last building that we looked at was an old trading station. They've now demolished that and they're building a new hotel on top of it. So that is a rejuvenation area. That's how it qualifies in the 280,000 or 350,000 option. Alternatively, you can have a property that is 30 years or older that you are now renovating, which will then qualify for the same thing. The renovation costs, just looking at another question that we had here, the renovation costs and your property purchase price together will account for the 280 or the 350. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your purchase price. You will include your renovation costs into that. Now, the areas are always going to be slightly mixed. Predominantly, we focus on the Algarve because the Algarve is high in tourism, it's high in turnaround, and it's good for property purchases, more of a Mediterranean option. So with that type of thing, that's where we're focusing. A lot of the properties that are on offer are either in the Algarve or sort of mid in between.
Super. I think that answers your question, hopefully, Simon, and also for Sean as well. Okay, so question from Kamala. Can you tell me about the ability to receive a UK pension in Portugal and any tax implications? Plus general information.
That one for you.
Yeah, you can another one for me. So we got plus general information on health and social care. Yes, you can receive a UK pension in Portugal. That is fine. Kamala, you can draw the pension with a flat rate of just 10% tax in Portugal. You won't be double taxed. There is a tax treaty between the UK and Portugal. You would need to apply for a tax regime called NHR, which I can assist you with. As far as health and social care, Portugal has one of the world's highest rated healthcare systems. Social care, not too sure about social care. But yeah, we can maybe look into that in some more detail, Kamala, but generally within Portugal, the healthcare and likes of education are some of the best in the world. But yeah, any particular questions, Kamala, please just drop me a message and we'll go into some more detail on that one. A question from Mark. Hi there, Mark. Can a common law wife be added to the visa? And if I have a visa and marry a non-EU citizen in Portugal, can they stay?
So the answer to that is yes. So as far as a spouse goes, there is no requirement that you have to be married. The requirement is that you have to at least live together or been partners for over a year. So that's the answer to the first question. Now, in the event that you are getting a divorce or you have a new marriage, that spouse then can be added on during the process, going through family unification. So the answer is yes and yes. New spouses and all spouses can join.
Super. Nice and easy. Thank you, Caroline, for your question. As far as details of the eligible properties, yes, please just send me an email, jason.swan@holbornassets.com, and I can send to you the properties within your planned budget. Nigel, hello, Nigel. Looking at, I have to excuse my poor Manchester pronunciation of this, but looking in Al-Khatim, going over on the 25th of this month, can you assist us on any viewings? Yes, we can do viewings, Nigel, no problem. Of course, some of the developments, of course, are off plan. Some of them are already built. So the likes of the Royal Obidos, it's a great one to view. The Yellow Tulip is a great one to view, although the hotel is closed. I can arrange for the hotel to be opened for you to look at the Yellow Tulip. The others generally are off plan, really. So the Holiday Inn, Wyndham, there's not a great lot to see just yet, but you can certainly get into the area and get a feel for where they are. That's no problem. But yeah, again, Nigel, just send me an email. Let me know which ones of your interest, and we can schedule some viewings. And of course, we can send over the brochures for you as well. Hi there, Francis. I've been resident on and off for 30 years. My only property is in Portugal. I am 83, so I no longer work or pay tax in Portugal. I'm not too sure what the question is there, Francis, but if you're already in Portugal, then you hopefully got a visa. If you've been here for 30 years, hopefully you're allowed to stay there, Francis. But yeah, if you want to go through some particular questions, send me an email, and obviously I can go through any questions that you have. Hi there, Chris. In which areas can I buy a €280,000 property to qualify? I'll take that one, Shane. The caveat for 280 there, Chris, is you must buy a property that is, first of all, over 30 years old, and it is going through a full renovation, and it is in a low density area. Can you just remind me, Shane, what is the definition of a low density area?
So the definition is less than 100 residents per square kilometer.
Yeah, okay. So that is the criteria for a low density area, because there's a lot of boxes to tick at 280. The hardest part is finding property that is over 30 years old, going through a renovation, and has a commercial license. Adding on to that, of course, the low density area as well. So yeah, we'll send over to you what we've got as far as any recommendations, and yeah, any questions further than that, just ask. Hi there, Laura. Visas that are under progress, will they still be considered under the same scheme or not? So I think Laura there, Shane, is referring to well, will anything change for existing visas, or maybe those that are in progress after the new law?
Yes, and no, they won't. So as I said to you before, we've had three. This will be the third change now within the Golden Visa, and everybody that's coming in for that specific rules of the regime will continue with you going forward. So at no point can they change any law in retrospect, so it'll never go backwards. It's just for clients coming into the program that will slightly change.
Super. Okay, a few more questions. Hi there, Julian. Is there a sum of money that my wife, 3 children, and I need to move to Portugal? Well, to get the visa, Julian, you need to buy a property for at least 280,000, and of course there'll be your legal fees and government costs as well. So you'll need to have that capital for the visa. As far as when you get to Portugal, yeah, of course you need to have some money to enjoy the lifestyle as well. I suppose that's just down to your personal budget and what kind of spending habits that you have, and of course where you want to move to in Portugal, whether it's going to be Lisbon or the Algarve or Porto, which have different kind of cost of living as well. But hopefully that answers your question, Julian. But yeah, please send me an email if any further. Elizabeth, hello. How to be linked with permaculturists? Bad English for me. How to be linked with permaculturists in Portugal to identify potential land for permaculture projects. How would Elizabeth go about doing that, Shane? Oh, Deborah's jumped in.
I can help with that one.
Go. Yes, fire away.
So if you want to email me, I've got someone who specializes in that, and they can help you with the land assessment, the water assessment, the soil testing, etc. That's one of Pure Portugal's main areas. So yeah, just send me an email at deborah@pureportugal.co.uk and I can send you more information.
Excellent. There you go, Julian. Hope that's okay. Elizabeth, sorry, that was your question. So yeah, if you send Deborah an email, she'll pick up on that one for you as well. Okay, that's the pre-questions that came in, Shane. I've got a couple more questions in the group. Hi there, Matt. I'm looking to buy a home in the Santarém region to live in. Can this be done in the Golden Visa system?
So to be honest with you, I don't know where the Santarém section is. We would have to look. There are defined portions of the country which are defined to be able to do that, but we would have to look. To be honest with you, it is something I'll have to get back to you.
North of Lisbon. I'm just having a look on the map there.
So north of Lisbon, if you're in and around Lisbon, or probably about an hour outside of Lisbon, you're probably looking at a main city. So that's generally going to fall under commercial.
Yeah, I'm looking at where Santarém is. It's kind of not far off Royal Óbidos, actually.
Yeah. So that Royal Óbidos is about 45 minutes outside Lisbon, and that falls under the the higher level, so closer to the cities.
Yeah, so probably not, Matt. Unfortunately, probably not. But again, drop us an email. We can have a look in that into some more detail, but possibly not at first glance. Hi there, Sean. You mentioned commercial at €280,000 if it's for a family or second home. Sorry, mentioned commercial at 280,000. What if it's for a family or a second home? Is the value of 280,000 still valid? In short, Sean, it isn't. No. Well, it just has to be a commercial property. But the idea behind a commercial property is that it's going to be rented out to on a commercial basis. It wouldn't be a family home. A family home, for example, an Airbnb rental would be a residential property rather than a commercial one.
So I think if I can, I think there's
yeah.
So what I'm reading here is so that's commercial, and alternatively, if it was a family home, would it still qualify? The answer is yes. So 280,000, as long as it reaches those certain criteria. The family home part would fall under certain areas. So it would only be valid if it's within certain areas of Portugal. The commercial and family and homes, the residential versus commercial, are always going to be dependent on specific area. So it doesn't come down to the price or anything like that. It purely comes down to area. So if you are buying a secondary home, there are options for 280,000, but it's generally going to be on your outskirts.
Thank you. Much better answer than mine, that wasn't it? Hi there, Maria. Can you please confirm, does the 30 plus year old property for 280,000 have to be designated as a commercial property already?
So it depends on which area again. So the area now becomes involved. And when we're looking at the designation, so generally it has to have a license. So each property will have a license. So when we're applying for tourism licenses for our hotels, it does take a period of time. But yes, they would have to have a license already. What we're finding is a lot of the larger hotels that we've purchased in the past have an existing license for the entire hotel, but we would have to, for the individual apartments, reapply for those licensing. So the answer to that is yes. We would need the existing property to have the commercial license.
Excellent. Right. Okay. I hope that's okay. Maria, thank you for your question. Other than that, I think we've covered everything, Shane. We've not done too bad.
And we're only 9 minutes over time.
We're doing all right. We're doing okay. But yeah, if there's any last minute questions, please fire them over or drop us an email as you have the contact details on the screen. But other than that, we'll hand back. We've got one last question, Deborah, just before we bring. Oh no, thank you, Matt. You're very welcome. No problem at all.
Matt's signing off. Thank you, Jason and Sean. Really appreciate
Shane, Deborah. You have to remember it's Shane.
Shane, really appreciate you.
I respond to all.
Appreciate you answering all those questions, and yeah, having the second webinar with us at Pure Portugal. So
Thank you,
great
guys.
to have you back, and thanks for everyone for joining.
Yep,
Until the next time.
Thanks, Deborah.
All the best.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.